Good evening, everyone. I'm guessing we can slowly start. The traffic is a mess, so I'm assuming people will join us as the night goes on. But for now, thank you so much for coming. Round of applause for our third cycle of Playing Narratives contestants. My name is Kristina. I'm from the SGA, Serbian Games Association, and together with my colleagues Relja, Isidora, and Nenad, we managed to, I would say, introduce a whole new group of young people to the world of creating games. So for the third year in a row, we had amazing partners who helped us actually bring all of this to fruition. So before we start, I don't want to miss anyone, so I'm going to read thank you to the Reconomy Project, Trilateral as part of Epic Games, Ubisoft Belgrade, and Two Desperados as three local companies that helped our teams grow throughout this 8-month process. And of course, the initiative Help, both of the institutes in Belgrade that we adore working with, so the French Institute and the Goethe Institute. So a big round of applause for them as well. I think they're in the back. And of course, the Amaze Festival from Berlin. So all of these institutions throughout the years helped us make better connections with game developers from Europe, primarily, that's a hard word, from Germany and France. So we had a chance to bring some amazing speakers here and, of course, make it possible for our participants in the program to meet the game dev world outside of Serbia as well. So for tonight, the main part, of course, of the program are the 6 pitches. This year we have 6 teams. We have a grand jury, let's call him like that. So just to introduce them as well, coming from London, we have Julija Makivic. And a local crew with various experiences in game design, UI art, indie game design. So first of all, we have Daria Kalcova, if I'm saying that right. Diana, sorry, from Ubisoft Belgrade. Then our alumni star from the last cycle of Playing Narratives, now owning his own company, Nikola Šoškić from Šoša Games. And last but not the least, our favorite scribbler and game designer, Stefan Kostadinovic from Two Desperados. All of them will help us do a really difficult job of somehow ranking these amazing teams that we had a chance to meet throughout the year. But before we start, we actually have a special presentation from our guest judge from London. I think it's important to talk about a different type of games. So throughout the Playing Narrative cycle, we introduced our teammates with companies with AAA and AA pipelines, but also with indie games. But I think we can also go a step back into something that's more experimental. So to tell us more about alternative controller games, Julija, please.
Thank you very much. So my name is Julija Makivic. I go by Julia or Julia. I was born in the States, but my parents are Serbian. And I have been making alternative controller video games for about 6 years now. I started in 2017 when I moved to London and studied at University of Goldsmiths. So in this presentation, I'm going to talk about various types of alternative controller games and also talk a little bit about my own projects and my own practice. Sorry, yes. Yeah. Well, yeah, so what are alternative controller video games? Basically, alternative controller video games are any game which uses a non-standard controller. Typically, they are made out of custom parts, hobbyist materials, oftentimes various types of microcontrollers that you can get in hobbyist shops like Arduino, Raspberry Pi, various sensors put together. And sometimes they do use standard video game controllers, but used in a non-standard way. Like, for example, there is a game where someone wears a keyboard like a tie and then types in various keys to tie the tie. So basically, it's just a non-standard way of interacting with a game. And usually they are just for fun, but other times they can be subversive and sometimes also pose an alternative to the mainstream gaming industry. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is Line Wobbler by Robin Baumgarten. Line Wobbler was actually shown in this space last year, I think, when they did a collaboration with Amaze, and it is probably one of the better known alternative controller video games. In this example, users interact with a wobbly door string and play like a 1D dungeon trawler type game where they wiggle the doorknob in order to fight enemies. So I'll show you this short video as an example. So as you can see, they're wiggling the doorknob and using it to control this batch of green LEDs and use it to fight these orange LEDs that represent the enemy. So it's a very engaging game, and he's developed on it in a myriad of ways, but usually the kind of input is always the same. You use this wobbly spring to control a stream of pixels and use it to fight enemies and various levels. I believe that Line Wobbler has like 3 different levels of difficulty. So yeah, that's one of the better known alternative controller video games. Next one that I would like to talk about is Bot Party by Phoenix Perry. And with this one, it kind of focuses on the mechanics of touch and of engagement when interacting with this game. So in this game, users hold these square-like objects called bots. And the way the game works is that these bots have conductive sides on them, so they're touch sensors. And there's a group of people playing the game, and one person holds a bot in their hand, and a group of people play the game, and each person holds a bot in their hand, and they connect with each other. They basically hold hands in order to make a circuit which causes music and various sounds to play. So that way electricity is, a little current is passed through this ring of people, and it causes various things to happen within the game. So if you would like to click on the link to just show a quick example of the video.
Bot Party is 3 boxes, and inside each box there are 2 LEDs, a button, an accelerometer, but most importantly, there are 2 custom-made sensors on 2 sides of the box. These sensors are able to detect touches between boxes if people hold hands. So, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, see, they hold hands, and then it made that sound.
I want people to understand that they impact the environment they're within, and that their interactions and their conversations between each other form a collective whole. Like, I think this one is...
Yeah, so the core theme of this game is sort of facilitating human connection through touch and encouraging people to kind of, I guess, hold hands in a safe and engaging way while making cool sounds. So yeah, if you want, I can continue on with the rest of the presentation.
Really expand how we think and how we...
So this one is called The Book Ritual by Alastair Acheson, and this one is particularly intriguing because it does something that many people would consider taboo. It's a game where you destroy books in order to examine the narrative within the game. So each time you destroy a book and feed it to this shredder, the game progresses, right? And it's kind of controversial because books are often considered sacred, right? Every single authoritarian government, one of the first things that they do usually is destroy literature. So it was a little bit of a daring mechanic for him to come up with to basically destroy many stories, many types of literature in order to find a story within a game. So I'm going to play this short video just so you can kind of get a sense of how this game works.
It's asking me to tear a page out and put it through the shredder. So I'm going to tear this out. and then stick it through the shredder. And that causes the text to advance to the next page.
The book ritual is a narrative game played using a real book and a real shredder. The player picks a book of their choice, and that book is represented as a character on the screen in front of them. The player needs to write inside this book, draw inside it, and tell it about their thoughts and feelings. The book will ask them to do creativity exercises, asking them to score out words that don't reflect how they feel, or to cut out pages and turn them into masks. Periodically, during the conversation, the book will ask you, the player, to tear pages out and put them through a shredder.
Yeah, so the key mechanic involves writing on and destroying books, and then feeding them to the shredder in order to progress the story. And that represents a type of character development or change for the main character of this game. Now, the last example which I would like to share with you is a game that's mostly just about experiencing something. So this game is one that was explicitly designed with absolutely no win condition. It's a plant dating simulator where you just rustle the leaves of this plant and listen to it. So there is no goal, there is no kind of like win condition. It's just a game about experiencing the moment and getting to know this sort of non-human creature in front of you.
Filament, antler, stamen, pollen. Blow your soft wind across my surface. Calyx. And soon a gentle rain will
So
kiss
you
my
touch the plant,
eyes.
and then that elicits certain sounds.
Taproot. Let us breathe slowly together. Stem. There are substances within us that sustain us both. Leaf. Lamina. Petiole. Succulent. I transform your breath into something beautiful.
Yeah, so it's just a means of getting to know this plant. So yeah, it's kind of like a very chill game that just focuses on the moment, but also it's one that's built on understanding. And you just sort of experience this very gentle ASMR landscape as you engage with these plants. Now, the person who created that previous game, Jess Marcotte, is sort of a figure in the Alt-Ctrl game scene. And Jess's stance on this is represented in this quote right here, which says, Alt-Ctrls are instances of countergaming. They are a comment on and reaction to the status quo. They may have been made with a specific user in mind to facilitate their play, or they may represent a unique design object made for just one game. Alternative controllers represent a desire to see, make, and play with something that does not exist within the standard set of interfaces. So basically, Alt-Ctrls provide a new means of interacting with a game, and they allow users to engage with games in different ways. So in the next slides, I'm going to talk about how sometimes within mainstream gaming, there's this sort of, like not always, but typically there's this bit where you need to understand and dominate a computational system in order to win. But Jess's game attempts to challenge that, and it's not about understanding or dominating the system, it's kind of just trying to understand it and engage with it in just sort of a mutual exchange. There's no real goal of winning here. And if just talking a little bit about how alternative controller games challenge the status quo, their material interface provides new affordances for interaction. So being able to use an interface in a particular manner adds a layer of meaning to the game. It can add a layer of narrative context and introduce players to the world of your game. And it introduces new means of play within the possibility space. Basically, by creating different inputs, it creates different means of play. There's also a potential for inclusivity. So certain games or controllers make assumptions that their audience have a certain level of familiarity with particular gaming systems. So for example, most mainstream games assume that players know how to use a console, a keyboard, or something like that. And they build their games around those systems and even build layers of difficulty around those systems. So they assume that players may have been playing for a while and that they can kind of build the difficulty of that game based on a familiarity with those systems. And some would say that perhaps some people who have never played a game before would find that very intimidating because they don't actually know how to use those systems, and they perhaps wouldn't know where to start or how to use it. So Alt-Ctrls level the playing field by introducing interfaces that nobody has seen before, so everyone starts off at an equal point. Now, the next couple of examples that I have in mind are not Alt-Ctrl games per se, but they do talk about how play can be used as a subversive tool and how it can challenge oppressive systems, specifically in these couple of examples, public systems of surveillance. So this one, which I would like to talk about, is Deus Ex Machina by Helena Niconola, and it is honestly one of my favorite, I guess it's not a game, but it is a mischievous project, and you will see why in the video in a bit. So if you scroll down, there's a Vimeo link somewhere on there. I think it's upstairs, up a level upstairs, up there. It might take a while to load. If not, I can just explain what happens there, and you can take a look at it on your own time, because it is a very, it's kind of, I think genius. It's one of, it's honestly one of my favorite art installations that I've seen. So we can give it a minute or so, but if not, no worries, I'll just talk about what happens. Yeah. Okay, never mind then. I think we might be a little bit pressed for time, so I'll just talk about it. So, okay. We're not going to watch the whole video, but I'm going to give you enough time to just get a sense of this, because
Machina is the project exploring the issue of online security within the internet.
In this example, Helena Niconola, so she took a bunch of religious texts, and she used AI to generate a composite religious text based off of all those religious texts. Then she managed to hack into a bunch of security cameras from around the world very easily, and she used a AI robot voice to read the text aloud to people in these public spaces. So you'll just see people walking around in random areas, grocery stores, and all of a sudden they hear this robot-generated voice speaking at them. So I'm going to play a few examples from that, just so you can get a sense, because it's one of those things that I find it's extremely amusing, but it's also ethically very dubious, because the people that are caught on camera are not necessarily willing participants. They're participating in this project without their consent, and I don't even know if they were ever really informed about what happened. So yeah, it's one of those things that pushes ethical boundaries, but nonetheless, I find it to be a very intriguing project. So this is the setup, this is all the code that went into it. A while ago, you may have seen all those epochs. If you're familiar with machine learning, then those are familiar. And this is the religious text that she compiled. Yeah. And that's the AI voice coming from the camera, and everyone is really puzzled.
Ведь только в постели их и вы узнаете. Они сказали, мы уверовали в него, и потом выводишь мне, что они приобрели. Они сказали, Отец мой, поклоняйтесь Богу и просите. И когда посылали сынами его, чтобы они стояли в другом месте. НФ того на место, где вы не постигли.
Buonasera, videocamera.
Вас Господь в том, что нашли нам то, чему поклонялись неверными. И когда они
просто наполнен.
Кроме тех, которые разделили. Там своими положили его священное
So yeah, you kind of get a sense what this project was, and in this case, it's not a game, but I do find that it is kind of playful in some sense, but also sort of menacing. But it just highlights how much we're surveilled, and how little, and how despite that surveillance, how not very secure at all those systems are. And you think that, surveillance is there for security, but it can be broken into so easily and disrupted like this, then what's the point and who is it benefiting? So, I don't know, I find it to be a very intriguing project, and then, yeah, I think that this gives you enough of a sense, so perhaps we can move on. Now, the next one is called Surveillance Chess by Bitnik, and this is another one that requires an external video. And with this one, someone hacked into the surveillance system in the London Underground. And what they did was they challenged the people who were on the other side of the security cameras watching the station to a game of chess. So whatever they were viewing from the security cameras was replaced by a screen that displays a chess game. And then they were supposed to engage in a game of chess with the hacker through SMS messages, telling them what moves they would like to do. So yeah, I'll play this short bit for now. So that's what the person on the other side of the CCTV camera saw, this game of chess.
I've hijacked your surveillance camera. I'm the one with the yellow suitcase. How about a game of chess? You are white. I am black. Black. Call me or text me to make your move. This is my phone number, 07582460851.
So in this particular example, play is being used to assert control in some sense. People didn't necessarily consent to be filmed in this subway, but now the hacker in this case is taking some of that consent back, or perhaps giving the people on the other end of that surveillance system a taste of their own medicine by engaging them in a game that they didn't really ask to participate in either. Now, those are some examples of Alt-Ctrl games and how play can be used in other sort of unusual or subversive ways. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about my own creative practice and some of the projects that I made. So the first one is called Void of Memory, and this was the game that I made for the first year of my master's project at Goldsmiths University. And it's a narrative game where users try to engage with the surveillance system. And there's like a ghost that's trapped inside of the surveillance system, and they have a choice of either continuing to use the surveillance system for its intended purposes by just, observing people without their consent and going about their job, or they can choose to free the ghost from the system and kind of blow everything up. Anyways, down there's a little video of it. We don't have to play the whole thing, but just a little bit. Some of you may recognize the band. It's taking a little while. But yeah, that's what the installation looked like. It was sort of this very big, clunky game. And it had a bunch of different inputs, including tilt switches, which are those things that I'm touching, graphics on an LCD screen. It was all powered by an Arduino microcontroller. Yeah, it had infrared for a little while, but I decided to not use that anymore after the sensor caught fire at another event, so I had to change that. But yeah, this is sort of my first true venture into alt-control spaces, and I had the opportunity to show it at a few different venues, including a maze. Yeah, the case itself was built with acrylic and a laser cutter. Yeah, and it was a great learning experience. In many ways, it was sort of a difficult project to maintain. The whole thing broke when I moved my apartment in London. So it doesn't exist anymore. It's in shambles now. But it was a great learning experience for the first ever alt-control game that I made, because I got to see how people actually interact with an interface that they're not familiar with. And it was sort of a really good test to see how users interact with it, what confuses them, what things can be made more clear. And sometimes you sort of want to have a little bit of difficulty with the game, but sometimes you don't want it to pass the point of being frustrating. So this sort of let me test all of that, and it was a really great learning experience. So I think we might be a little bit short on time, so I'm going to move to the next slide. And this game is called Ghost Boy in the Land of the Dead, and it's about a ghost having an existential crisis in the afterlife. It wants to feel alive, so it just eats ghost burgers in order to feel alive again. So I'll play the short trailer for this game. So the Ghost controller was made out of silicone rubber, and that's the controller itself. It has vibration sensors, tilt switches that sort of test whether they're upright or not. And the idea was that users had to take the body of this ghost and contort it in order to control the ghost within the game. So the game itself is about a ghost that's trying to feel alive, to feel real, and the player is trying to control its body. So it's like the sort of connection between the body and the soul. And the game style itself was this very retro sort of pixel art style. And you sort of just had to twist and contort this controller in order to make the ghost move around the screen. And of course, there's some areas with bad enemies that make the ghost cry. So yeah, and this is sort of, this is how you would control it, by sort of just moving its hands back and forth, but in order to get it to move at certain angles, you really, really had to twist it. So that's Ghost Boy in the Land of the Dead, and that was my final project at Goldsmiths University in my second year. And I took a lot of the things that I learned from Void of Memory and applied it to this game. And I felt like I was able to make it a little bit more user-friendly, although people still found the controller to be a bit difficult, but I felt like that added to the story. Yeah. Now, these are some of the projects that I'm working on now. I'm particularly interested in wireless communication, so I work with a lot of Wi-Fi-enabled controllers. And this is one that is very much still in progress, but if you can see towards the left side of the GIF, there's a sort of floating brick. And that brick is a Raspberry Pi with an accelerometer, and it sends that accelerometer data to the screen and causes the characters on the right to move. So by tilting it at various angles, you can control the frame rate and the passage of time. And that one is sort of very much in its early stages, and this was just kind of a test sequence, but I really like this idea of these objects being able to communicate with each other while seemingly not being connected to anything. So that's a theme that I wanted to explore with this project. And finally, I have some examples of wearable games that I'm trying to build. I actually have one right now. But they're these wearable devices that are wireless and that players can connect and sort of exchange information with, but you can also just play them on their own too. And this is also a game that is very much in an early stages. So I linked to a couple of examples of ways that I've experimented with it. But yeah, that's mostly if you would just like to read and see kind of any updates on it. But with these two examples that I'm holding in the pictures, on the right is one that is connected to Facebook Messenger. And the way it works is that you answer the questions in the Facebook Messenger game, and then the signal gets transmitted to the screen. And the one that I'm wearing on my jacket is one that is just sort of like my first attempt at a wearable game. It was very clumsy, it was very big, but the star and the moon are buttons that you can press. And I sort of had a pin going through it and attached it to my jacket. And this one that I'm holding right here is sort of the latest iteration of that. But yeah, these are some works of mine that are in progress. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you so much for listening. And if you're interested in alt controls or have any questions, please feel free to contact me. I'm always happy to talk about this. So yeah, anyways, thank you so much for having me.
Clear. Just a second, stay for a while.
Oh yeah, okay.
So, since you're here,
Yes.
I'll just use an opportunity to maybe ask you one question.
Yes.
And that is, we had sort of a hardware alternative gaming scene, let's say a decade ago, but it's all sort of filtered away. What would you say is a conducive environment, and what can we do to foster and inspire younger creators to maybe opt for something like this?
Ooh, I mean, I think that one of the best things that you can do is try to make this knowledge accessible, because I think that hardware is very intimidating at first. So I think the easier it is to access the knowledge in order to make these things, the better it will be. And I think it really helps to have a community around. So I feel like maker spaces and places like that are a great place for fostering this alt-control community, especially a place where more experienced people can teach novices. I think that's usually I feel like a really great environment for this kind of stuff.
Thank you. Thank you for a very inspiring presentation.
Thank you.
So before we move on, just to be on the same page and set some ground rules, each team will have precisely 7 minutes. The timer will start whenever you guys start, and you will hear a very persistent sound when 7 minutes are up. So no going over the time. So please, judges, keep that in mind. Each of the jury members have their own sheet with some categories that we are basing our decisions on. Our contestants are not aware what these precise marks are for, so they will do their best on each of these. And I guess we can slowly start. Cool, so I'm going to invite team number 1. Good luck. Čiče gliše.
Can we grow and make our dreams grow with us? When we are little, we all have some grand dreams about becoming an astronaut, captain of a ship, or even a game developer. Unfortunately, they say you become a grown-up when you leave behind and give up on all those dreams and other so-called illusions. But does it really have to be like that? Let's find out. The third dimension of a Stickman is a casual puzzle adventure about one simple drawing and its journey to become something greater. A player needs, quite literally, to draw his way through all the challenges in a 3D isometric world. And as in life, no one will tell you how that is going to happen, so our storytelling is completely non-verbal. Because of these choices, we want our game to be highly accessible and intuitive for young players. And we were inspired by child's rich imagination and the goofy nature of their character. But we will target parents, or more precisely, millennial dads that have grown up with games and want their own children to develop same emotional connection with the gaming world. They also see games as a coping tool by which we learn to fail and overcome challenges. This is how we see our buyer persona. Our end users are 6+ kids that are at the beginning of their gaming experience, and even more importantly, at the point in their lives when mom and dad are no longer the center of their world. We want to make a game that is goofy and great for beginners. We want to tell a story about one small person that can make a big difference, and we want to have a common drawing mechanic. The third dimension of a Stickman revolves around, well, one Stickman that lives on a piece of paper with his stigma and stigma. Stickman is strictly forbidden to ever, and I mean ever, leave the limits of the paper. Why? The outer world is ruled by wicked Eraser, the emperor of all drawn things, and he won't allow anyone break free of the paper. But one day, a 3D printer arrives at a neighboring house, and Stickman goes into the adventure through his house and suburban area to grow up and make himself bigger than anyone would ever believe. Along the way, he will encounter many different characters and enemies. This is the girl on a potty, the one you can see on the toilet doors. She falls in love with Stickman, and hairy monsters from a drain. We want to entertain our players with characters that are peculiar, in a way to prepare them for the real world, because we believe real people are equally strange. A player uses a magic pen, our core mechanic, to draw different symbols, either by using a finger, a mouse, or a mushroom, depending on the device. And each of these symbols activates certain effect. By using a magic pen, a player interacts with and changes the environment in order to overcome obstacles and make progress. Why have we chosen a drawing mechanic? Because in that way, we influence the development of both mental and motor skills of our young players. Just like in life, the more you advance, the more things get complex. So at any given moment, a player can quit, give up, go back to mommy and daddy on a sheet of paper, and the end ends for the gamer. But if he's persistent enough, he will find out that having struggles is fun, because they teach us over and over again how capable and smart we can all be. This is the reason we believe why our players will stick with us till the end, and also the reasons why dreams can come true. We will launch our game on platforms that are suitable for young players, with a price that is quite accessible, because we want our game to be accessible at every possible aspect. To sum everything up, 3 core elements of our game are the goofiness of plot and characters. A player needs to draw to solve the puzzles, and we really want to influence child development and be just one tiny part on their journey to maturity. Stickman will eventually grow up, become a 3D person, defeat wicked Eraser, and free other drawn things from the limits of the paper. Just as the 4 of us have grown and didn't give up on our dreams by working on this project. Thank you.
Now, each of the jury members will have a chance to ask a question if there was anything left unanswered in the presentation itself. We can go from the other end if you want.
Well, I found everything clear, so maybe from the middle, no? Without commenting right now, right?
Without
Yeah.
just questions.
No questions.
Why did you decide to have this art style, let's say?
Well, it was 4 of us on the team, and we have only one artist, 3D artist. So we really tried, we really wanted for her to be inspired enough to get this project done. Okay, that's honest. That's how the cards were dealt, yes.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, I have a question now. So what platforms is it for?
Okay, it's for platforms that are suitable for young children, so it's Nintendo Switch. It's both for Apple devices and Android devices where they can draw with fingers, and in the end for the PC.
Okay, so will be a touch input primarily.
Primarily, yes, yes.
Okay, cool.
What you would find was the most challenging part of this project for you?
Personally or generally?
You can go either way.
I need to think about it. Well, the biggest challenge was I was a project manager. This is personal stuff. And for me, it was really a task to motivate each member to give their best and to really wrap up all this thing in this long 8 months.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. So, team number 2, Clockwork GP.
What is the greatest danger to an artist? You might think it's an art block, burnout, or lack of skill. Although these are valid things to be concerned about, none of them are the answer. The greatest danger to an artist is the moment when he loses his passion for art. Is there a way to bring it back? Maybe you will find an answer by joining Damien, an ex-artist on his journey. Together, you might just change your frame of mind. After giving up on his art career, Damien started working as a security guard in a museum. But on the first day, he realizes something is out of place. Paintings are not like he remembers them. Could this be linked to a strange journal he found the day before? As he opens this magical journal, he realizes his favorite works of art have been corrupted. His mission now becomes to bring them back as they were. And during his adventure, he will experience the extraordinary worlds of Van Gogh's, Gustav Klimt, and Jean-Honoré Fragonard's paintings, such as The Bedroom, The Kiss, and The Swing. And while searching for the way to bring their art back to their initial state, he will learn enticing facts about each artist individually, talk to the characters inside their paintings, and see the world from their eyes. Now, let me ask you, do you see a difference between these two pictures? Well, thanks to his journal, Damien will know which part of the painting to fix to get the original version. And until he completes his mission, they will go again and again. He then goes from being a scared boy who abandoned his dreams to a confident artist who knows he can achieve anything he sets his mind to. There are 3 different main elements our game relies on. Rich narrative, which makes a parallel between solving the problems inside the paintings and inside Damien's mind itself. Distinctive art style will let you experience famous 2D works in a new 3-dimensional light, and engaging puzzles, which get progressively harder as new mechanics are introduced and final level approaches. And the core game loop of our game works like this. You enter a painting in order to fix it. Then you have to figure out what is wrong with the painting. And once you figure out what's wrong, then you have to restore it by doing puzzles. When you finish all the puzzles, you are then granted a piece of the final level, Damien's own painting, and you continue on to the next painting. You repeat this cycle until you collect all the pieces needed to reveal the last painting. Core game mechanic, which is also our game's most exciting feature, works like this. As you walk through the museum, you will see a special glow on the paintings you can go into. If you interact with it, you will get sucked into its 3D world, in which you'll be faced with numerous challenges. When you wish to exit the paintings, you will then be shown a specialized button which will bring you back to the overworld. But what to do when you're in the painting? There are 4 main mechanics you will be using to solve the puzzle inside the paintings. Restoration, which can range from arranging different balls in the bathroom to get the water going, to mixing different colors to get the exact color you need. Push and pull, as the name says, can push and pull objects to get them into places you want them to be. Time dilation will allow you to change the time of the day, which will make certain paths visible and which will directly impact the state of the painting. And lastly, portals, which will allow you to teleport to the places that were previously unreachable. Our player must remember which portals he went through, because enter and exit points are fixed. Otherwise, he will get lost easily. We also made it possible for the player to use items from the museum to solve puzzles inside of paintings. For example, player sees a missing chair in Van Gogh's room. He can then go to the museum, pick up the chair and bring it into the painting in order to fix it. But who is this game for? By analyzing the market, we have made a profile of our typical player. These type of players enjoy puzzle-solving games as well as compelling narratives. They can just sit back, relax, and enjoy adventure at their own pace. Keeping in mind the nature of our game, we decided that the best gaming experience would be on platforms that these type of players enjoy using the most, such as PC and Nintendo Switch, and we have concluded that the price of our game will be around $15. There are 3 things that separate the Frame of Mind from other competitive games in the genre. Firstly, the distinctive art style. Second, the narrative. So not only will you be drawn to the visuals, but also captivated by the story. And lastly, since our game is the only 3D game in the market niche, with all others being 2D. All of us, part of one team, one mechanism, working as a union. We are Clockwork GP. Thank you.
I will go first, right? So I already have the mic. Thanks for the presentation. I have a question regarding the paintings.
Okay.
So there is like hundreds and hundreds of popular paintings, right, all over. Why you choose those ones? What was the decision made?
Based on narrative, our player has a style mix of these 3 painters. So that's why we chose those 3, and because our 2D artist really loves them. And also because we based this game on strip comic book. A comic book which is in comic book, there's a talk about Van Gogh and how he goes out and out of paintings and in paintings. So it's like visual style is what inspired us. Yeah.
Thanks.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I have a question regarding the narrative. I've seen like game mechanics and stuff like that, and how do you implement? How do you communicate narrative with the player? Like, how do you tell them what is going on? You know, I don't think I saw it there. Do you have like some idea about that?
Can I ask? I mean, there's a journal which can open inside the game, and which will show where you come, like where. What's your state right now, and he will have a little notes that you, through journal, you will discover his character, and also there will be, there's a part that we're still working on at the beginning of the game that will introduce more the character and his mindset, and that will lead you on to the next part of the game.
Cool.
If you want some more detail, you can ask our game designer and narrative. They're more in touch with that, so yeah.
Thanks.
Hi. Have you maybe considered or investigated, are there maybe legal troubles with using existing IP from famous artworks?
Yes, we have, because first idea was to use Salvador Dali, and we realized it hasn't passed like 70 or more years, 70, something like that. And he was copyrighted, so although we had many great mechanics with his painting, we then decided to use another painter just because of that. So all of these painters are now free to use in the game.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I have a question about the art style. So does the art style change with every single painting that he enters? And also, what went into kind of like designing the real world versus the world of the paintings? And perhaps why is there sort of such a stark difference between the painting style, the painterly style of the paintings, and the sort of 3D world of outside of the paintings?
Well, it's so stylized, but we wanted to make a difference so you know when you're in the museum and when you're inside a painting. But all the paintings are done in art style, like it resembles the main artist, but it's also the combination of our 2D artists. So we didn't like do the exact same style as each of artists, but the combination of style of our artists and theirs. So we make like a merge and combination of many different type of like how to draw and something like that. if I made sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're almost halfway there. Team number 3, Abrazarba.
Think back to when you were a teenager. Did growing up, becoming an adult, go how you expected? And can you pinpoint the exact moment everything changed? Well, this is the moment. It's the night of your coming of age ceremony, and it's a very important night for you. And because of that, I would like to ask you to close your eyes, just for a moment, and let the sound guide you. Can you hear the drums, the crackling of the fire, the leaves rustling under the wind, or the owl flying high above? You may now open your eyes, because suddenly the moment is interrupted when a tribe member casts an electrical shard into the fire, causing you to plunge deep into darkness. As you fall deeper and deeper, you clutch the only remaining thing that links you to your world, a simple flute. So why is a flute so important? Well, because in Dreamweaver, sound is magic. Sound is your companion, it's your guide, It's the way you will interact with this world. This world, built on a foundation of Slavic folklore, mythology, fairy tales, targets a very specific type of player. Those are players that are curious, observant, and ready to adapt to non-traditional methods of solving puzzles, exploring the environment. These players enjoy games such as Journey, Little Nightmares, Bramble the Mountain King, games that tell you a story without ever saying a single word. In Dreamweaver, we do this through sound-focused puzzles, nonlinear and visual storytelling. While playing this game, you will be immersed into a symphony of choice and exploration where every note echoes the consequences of your decisions. And we really mean this. Every note you play does make a difference. So who will accompany us on this journey? Meet Dara, our young protagonist, whose coming-of-age ceremony was just interrupted, and now she's forced to grow up on her own. And what is a coming-of-age story without a mentor? Yarilo, an ancient oak tree, standing tall and majestic, connecting the environment into one organism, one entity, will be her guide through this world. Their relationship is a crucial part of the story because initially he is very reluctant to help her due to humans' past misuse of technology. But during the course of the game, this might change based on your actions. Every choice you make, every note you play, will influence his attitude towards you. And because this relationship is so important, let's see how they met. So, how exactly are you going to interact with the tree? Well, in this game, you'll use your instrument, and like with any instrument, first you have to tune it. You'll get a choice between two paths. Electricity, which is pretty easy to use, very powerful, but also very destructive to nature. And a more holistic, natural approach, where you'll use sounds of air, water, fire to your advantage. First, you got to tune your instrument, and once you do that, you're ready to solve a puzzle. This would be our first example. The first example, pretty straightforward. You power up electric components by playing to the beat of electricity. But the other way is a little less obvious. In this example, you have to take in clues from the environment and act accordingly in order to solve your issue. The beauty of this approach is that each puzzle can be solved in multiple ways, giving the players the option to think outside the box, encouraging them to really pay attention to what they hear, and replay a game to explore different ways of solving puzzles and different paths they can take. And just as our love for video games and storytelling led us to the path of creating Dreamweaver, we invite you to take a plunge into this dream and see where it takes you. Thank you.
So your game is based on Slavic mythology. Did you do any type of research in terms of different myths or legends beforehand, or did you kind of just like have it as a sort of a foundation and then built on top of it in your own way?
So much research.
Yeah,
Yeah, we did a lot. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Okay, I will go with my question. Could you please walk me through the core gameplay loop when you have a puzzle? Like, what would it be?
Right, so basically you first have to learn the sound, tune your instrument, solve a puzzle, and that is how you will progress through the game. After you solve a puzzle, you enter a new area where you learn something new about the world, and then move on by learning different sounds or expanding on the sounds you already know.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hi, thank you. My question is also regarding the gameplay. How do you communicate to player about that sound that he needs to play? I couldn't really understand from this. Like, does he have a visual cue, or he literally hears a sound and he needs to recreate it to pass?
Well, there are both visual clues. We really thought about this in terms of accessibility. So we do want to include the option of a visual cue as well, but primarily it will be focused on a sound. Like in the other puzzle example I showed, in that example you would hear perhaps the sound of wind blowing through a hollow log that you can then topple over. And that's the main way in which you'll get clues through the environment.
Cool, thanks.
Okay, I will ask you to remind me just about the narrative. What is the motivation of the main protagonist? What are they trying to achieve?
Trying to go, leave this nightmare, go back to her reality.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Sara. Team number 4. Hi, Peđa. Irae.
Hi. Picture this. You've managed to escape hell, but you don't remember anything that happened before you died. You soon realize that you've done some terrible, terrible things while you were alive. Are you ready to find out what kind of monster you were? What horrible things you've done? And maybe even get a chance to fix that. Maybe even get a chance at the second day of judgment, the second day of wrath, or Dies Irae. The soul that managed to escape is of our protagonist, a French jazz pianist named Leo. His story, just like the Dies Irae hymn, is sung in 3 sections. The first one being about his return to life and the horror and terror that comes with that process. The second chapter is about the judgment of one's soul. It is about his time in his band, their rise, and their turbulent fall from fame. The third chapter is a prayer for mercy. It is about confronting his family and yearning to earn the trust that he so violently and painfully took away from them. This game is inspired by Disco Elysium for its morally deep and complex dilemmas, Before Your Eyes for its delivery of emotionally impactful moments, and also Dead by Daylight for its constant feeling of fear and eeriness. The mechanics are something that takes our game and it separates them from the crowd of other games. One of those mechanics are the composer. This mechanic, whether Leo is alone playing the piano, whether he's playing with his daughter or jamming out in the studio with his band, the player will act as a conductor. He will tell the characters what to play and when to play it, making their own composition. This composition will be impactful to the story as it will unlock memories from Leo's past. Another valuable mechanic I would like to mention is called the memoirs. This serves as a mind map of Leo's memories, and as he goes through his story, he picks up significant objects and plays music that unlock memories from his past, which is tracked in this mechanic. The guiding light of our game are our game design pillars. Musical elements is something that dictates the rhythm and reveals the biggest narrative beats of our game. Impending doom is something that we want our players to feel like something is always watching them or hiding behind a corner. And also, with all that doom, we need to have a little bit of hope, a little bit of a chance at redemption. The story is set in Paris between 1920 and 1950 as jazz is on the rise, and as Leo tracks back his trail, he visits various locations, some of them being his apartment, his family home, the jazz club, and the studio where him and his band played. Speaking of his band, I would like to introduce to you Valentin's quintet. We have Mathilde on the drums. We have the Italian boxer Matteo on the contrabass. We have the star of the show, Valentin, on the sax. And we have, the last but not least, always kind and humble, Pierre on the trumpet. I would also like to introduce to you a once tight-knit family. In the final chapter of the game, Leo's worst and most regrettable sins are revealed, and he needs to earn back the trust and forgiveness of those closest to him, his loving wife Nuzwa and his daughter Wazis. This game is obviously not for everyone, so we did some market and user research and came up with a player profile that we would like to target. We would like to target players over 16 years old, ideally in their mid-20s, and pets, someone who will be able to resonate with our characters, their more dilemmas and motives, and someone with a keener ear for music that will appreciate the music and songs in our game and the songs that they will craft themselves. Apart from the music crafting mechanic and the unique setting of our game, I would like to point out that we have a story that we want to tell, and we know just how we want to tell it. So we are looking to make a compact and focused experience of 5 to 8 hours that will suck in the players to our world and be completed in 1 to 2 sittings. This game will be released initially on the PC at 2 price points, $20 for the base game and $30 for the deluxe edition of the game. A year or 2 later, we would like to port the game on the consoles and release it with a DLC and a collector's edition of a game at $60, and farther down the line, we would like to port it on the Nintendo Switch and also explore other media such as series or books. And finally, the team that made all of this happen, my lovely team, Irae. I would love to answer all of your questions.
Hi.
Hi.
Considering you want to achieve identification with the player, how come you've chosen the protagonist who lives 100 years before this moment?
Well, we are looking to connect the player to our characters and our game primarily through music, because that is one of our pillars and something that we want the game to revolve around. We want it to feel like you're playing a documentary about some famous musician, let's say Aretha Franklin or who's the singer of Freddie Mercury? Okay, yeah. Or any other documentary. There's like 100 of them now.
Hi.
Hi.
So, could you just run me through the core game loop? Like, what does player do moment to moment?
Okay, so let's take the tutorial level, for example. Once he escapes Horfel, he will wake up in a morgue. And there he will learn the mechanics, which are pretty simple, through escape room-like puzzles. And through that, he will unlock areas of the world where he will go interact with NPCs, find out more about the story and more about his life, since he doesn't remember anything. So it's going to be piecing together the story of his life, and when he finishes with one chapter, he moves on to another area he can explore, and so on and so on.
So is it like a linear, or you can get like scattered around and players should like figure out?
Kind of a mix. If you play the Disco Elysium, it's kind of like that, but one area is one world that he can explore, and when he explored as much as he wants, then a sequence called the chase is going to trigger, where hellhounds who chase him will try to get him back to hell. And that is something that is going to trigger the transition to another chapter, and then all of that happens again and again until you finish the game. And learn about the plot twist at the end.
Cool, thanks.
Oh no, I want to ask about the plot twist, but okay.
You can ask. I wanted to put it in the presentation, but I was severely advised not to.
Okay, so we have to wait, right? I have a question regarding what inspired you to combine the time period plus the comeback from hell story.
A lot of stuff. Could you maybe please repeat the question?
Yeah, what inspired you with the time period and
Okay.
like a loop of I'm coming from hell and.
Well, I kind of thought about it, and it was kind of the blend of all five of us, because I mean, of course, everybody likes music a lot, but I'm a dancer, and I always wanted to make a game where music is the big element, and we have, of course, our composer. So we kind of blended all that and made a game about jazz in the 20s in France. I studied in France, so I really loved that country, and I wanted to make it about that. So kind of a mishmash of all our wants and, I don't know, desires.
So I also have a question about the plot.
Plot twist.
Yeah, so he wakes up from the morgue, but is it a situation where he goes back in time, or is he sort of in the, like, present within his own time? And also,
Yeah.
can the other players see him?
That's an amazing question. So the thing is, he died very unnoticed. So he became a drunk, and everybody kind of shunned him away. And when he came back to life, nobody even noticed he was gone. So basically, all of the people were like, "Oh, you again?" I can't swear, okay? So, yeah, he remains in the same timeline, but story is told through playable flashbacks.
I see. Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
Swearing is allowed for future reference. And now team number 5, Shinto Pop.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us after what I'm sure has been a very long week for most of you. And what better way to unwind than to embark on a delightful journey together? Picture a world where you can leave behind the stress and chaos of your daily life. A world where you can escape, if only for a little while, into the realm of serene beauty, mysticism, and self-discovery. Today, we introduce you to a game that offers just that. I welcome you to Spiritbound. Step into the shoes of Nanashi, an apprentice Shinto priest, as he discovers that one of his shrines, guardian fox spirits, is missing, plunging the spirit realm into disharmony. The looming threat of rising miasma levels disrupts the land, placing the stage for a heartwarming quest. On this adventure, Nanashi is not alone. He is guided by Reiji, the remaining guardian. He is snarky, enigmatic, and plays the role of unreliable narrator because he really likes to twist his words to his advantage. Thankfully, though, Reiji isn't the only spirit Nanashi will meet. The world of Spiritbound is filled with yokai characters inspired by Japanese culture. From the mischievous Kappa and elegant Nureona to the wise Tengu, these spirits represent the essence of the land, offering quests and teaching Nanashi valuable skills needed for his growth as a Shinto priest. Our character, through his journey, must explore different regions of his world. Each region is unlocked by passing a specific torii gate. But first, we need to reduce the miasma levels in the region Nanashi is currently in before he can progress to the next one. He can do this by talking to the local yokai, who will give him quests involving crafting, exploration, and cleansing the affected areas. After completing quests, he will be rewarded with harmony points that can be used to reduce the miasma. He needs to continue doing quests until he gathers enough points to be able to pass through the Torii Gate leading to the next area. The heart of Spiritbound lies in exploration, crafting various gifts, and creating emotional connections to the yokai spirits. This ties directly into our unique selling points. Players get to experience a Japanese folklore-inspired fantasy world, where they can enjoy an adventure with charming characters and a relaxing, no-stress gameplay. For our platforms, we have chosen those most commonly used for cozy games. That would be PC and the Nintendo Switch. Switch's portability caters to the on-the-go gaming enthusiasts, while PC's flexibility and possibility of deeper immersion attracts a wider gaming audience. However, since cozy games are mostly played by women, our target audience reflects that. Our ideal player persona is a woman of 16 to 30 years of age who likes to read manga and fantasy novels and wants to experience a tranquil escape into a mystical world. Unlike other games in this subgenre, such as Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley, and Ooblets, which all focus on life simulation and farming mechanics, Spiritbound emphasizes the adventure-based gameplay and fantasy elements. What everyone needs to know about our game is that it's a 3D, top-down, third-person single-player game with an expandable world. It features crafting-based minigames, more than 50 collectibles, hours of exploration, and more. Here you can see what the PC gameplay would look like. You can move and point your mouse to where you want Nanashi to move. And to collect various items, you can use the E letter on your keyboard. You can build relationships with the spirits by simply talking to them and finishing their specific quests. You can also learn their personalities and the interests and quirks, such as maybe what's their favorite tea or even dessert. When it comes to collectibles, they can be found all over the world and can be later used for crafting. For instance, the flowers you collect can be used to create ikebana arrangements that can later be given to various spirits in hopes of bettering your relationship with them. Along the way, Nanashi also encounters small animal yokai that have been lost and misplaced by the miasma. He helps them by guiding them back to his shrine, and in return, they become his helpers, fetching various resources and aiding him in completing the rest of his tasks. In the world of Spiritbound, collaboration is key. And for us, this translates into real life as well. Our team works seamlessly, binding artistry, narrative, and sound to bring into life this game's vibrant universe. We thank you all for being a part of our journey today.
So can you maybe go over of the mechanics or the loop of asking the baby yokai to collect things for you? So how would you call that from the interface? Or
from the interface? Well, about that, I'm not really sure because we haven't gotten that far into creating the UI. But basically, there would be options in the shrine because it would serve as a sort of a hub. And whenever we need we have specific time frame when we need to collect various items and we need to focus on the main quest, we could go back to the shrine where our pets or the small yokai actually abide and ask them through talking to them and maybe offering them treats and stuff like that.
Cool, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, thanks.
Hi.
What are the quests that you intended player to go on, you know, except from that collectathon. What is the gameplay in a sense? What are the quests? Because you said your competitors are some sims where you like move around and farm and fish. And what do you do here in that sense?
Well, since the main goal is to reduce the miasma levels that have caused chaos in the universe, there are a lot of characters, specifically the yokai, who need help with various things. It could be getting rid of some vermins, or maybe recovering some lost item that is very valuable to them. But mostly you would be doing quests related to their problems, and not only their problems, but the general problems in the universe, the world, the specific villages, and stuff like that. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, pretty much. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Hi. Regarding, you said that there's a differentiation between your game and the games you mentioned, and you told us that it's adventure elements and puzzle elements, if I'm not wrong.
Crafting-based.
What are exactly? Can you elaborate on those? What are those differentiations specifically?
Yes. So basically, Stardew Valley and Animal Crossing are really pretty community-based, and you are very focused on farming and everything, and in Noblest as well. But here, that wouldn't really be the main point of the game. So the exploration would pay more. Would be a bigger point, and the communication wouldn't maybe be as simple as it is in those games, because we would like to go into deeper mythology and the connections that would actually enable the player to actually learn about the culture as well while they are playing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now, always ahead of the game, team number 6, komunalna opozicija.
Naopačke, da.
Code authorized.
So the story goes like this. The most powerful nations of our planet have merged their powers in order to tackle the most dire problem of our generation, ecocide. Their top minds have conjoined their effort in order to create the most powerful AI we have ever seen, Shallow Brain. But sadly, that experiment has backfired. The AI has decided to go rogue and became pretty radical. Their response to that was getting the whole scientific team sacked along with the AI destroyed. So this is our main character. He's having a really bad day. He doesn't know where he is, he doesn't know who he is, and he sees that he's only surrounded by all types of the trash. Kind of like me on a Friday night. So he decides to look around him, to see where he is, what's his purpose. And his answers from memory kind of kicks in. He has desire to eat all the trash. And that's your point, that's your goal of the game. You want to clear whole landfill. But don't worry, you won't do it in the first time. You won't do it even the 10th time. Because each time you try, after 30 minutes, a tactical nuclear bomb comes to your location and you get destroyed, blown to pieces. But how will you achieve this goal? Well, you're helped by this trash. Not only does it look tasty to you, but it turns out, as you eat it, you can use it as fuel, you can use it to rebuild yourself and to enable your higher cognitive abilities. But they come at a price. The more you eat a specific element, the more bad you feel. You start developing mental illnesses. For example, glass makes you anxious, bio-trash makes you schizophrenic, you hear voices, and so on. But there's other part, there's a silver lining here. Not only do you evolve mentally, you evolve physically to help you with all this. So each path, depending on which element, type of trash you consume the most, will take you to a different evolution, a different bug. And with it, your physical appearance will change and also your gameplay. Different types of builds will allow you to move the terrain differently, easier. You will become resistant to, let's say, acid pools or fire, or you will be able to evolve spider-like legs to climb higher, to also get to that trash. As I said, you will get killed a lot, and each time you get killed, you will upload your brain to a hacked satellite. There, you will reconstruct your consciousness in yourself, and you will carry on your upgrades also. So you will carry your feelings, your mental state, and both your physical. So you can choose on the next run what will help you with clearing all the trash. That's your goal. Next to those feelings are also ideas and thoughts of your creators. You have gained them from them. Your bad ideas, bad emotions stem from them. They were flawed men and flawed people as we are. So as you reconstruct yourself, you will reconstruct the file system and unlock it more to find out what were their ideas, what were their dreams, what were their fears, how did they imagine the perfect world cleaned of all trash, both literally and metaphorically. So our pillars are replayability. We would like to emulate the feeling of playing the 80s games in the in the good old days when you would just pop a coin and play and don't care about anything else. You would like to experiment. We would like you to experiment a lot with our games, since not only are there different gameplay styles, there are different endings depending on how much of each person you restore in your brain, which will cause a different acting of the final AI that is reconstructed. And of course, this game is relaxing. There are no enemies. There are no enemy players. There are no teammates. You're just collecting trash. You're going at your own pace. That is a very good thing because it allows you to catch both the casual and the hardcore players. You can either sit on your couch, play the game, grab a beer, talk with your friend, or you can become really sweaty if you feel like, depending on your position that you play in and the atmosphere. We would also like to, we would also like to target explorers and people who love experimenting, people who would like to explore different endings and stick with the game longer, and who would like to experiment with different playstyles. And our target audience would be both those old head people looking for that nostalgic hit of the simple arcade games, and the younger generations who have grown up like we have on roguelike and roguelite games. Similar game to the king of the 80s, Pac-Man. The Tasty Planet, if anybody remembers that PC game where you go around and eat everything, it's a gray matter type of game, which is similar to our game where you eat your surrounding and incorporate it into yourself. And Spore, of course, which covers the part of our experimentation and evolution with our main character. What this game is different than other games is in the aspect that you can play your own way. You can play your own style. You don't even have to touch the play styles you don't like, and you don't have to play the storylines you don't like. There is a bit of feeling of urgency, but as again, you can just relax and don't chase the high score. And you can do it all over and over again, which makes this game actually very cost-worthy, which is the $10 a piece. Our team, Miloš Petković, audio producer, Aleksa Vukic, our art lead for 2D and 3D, Bogdan Golubović, our 3D artist, and me, myself, and I, Vukašin Tarabić, game designer and narrative designer. We are Team Trash 3. We're coming for you. Thank you so much.
Ne znam šta da radim s ovim, molim.
Hi.
Hi.
My question is, did you play to scale difficulty in any way? So how the game is going to become more challenging when I return third time from satellite?
The challenge stems from that it starts impossibly challenging. You will, in the first 10 runs, you will be able only to clear 10% of the trash pile, and you will have to fine-tune your playstyle, your evolutions, your robot to actually even come close to 100% clearing of the landfill. And then we have ideas to implement a late game where you not only try to clear all the trash, but you also try to do it eco-friendly. There will be builds which will be better they will emit less CO2 and they will leave less trash behind, ash and such things.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, thanks.
Hi.
So when you play, do you go around, like you have controls and your character moves around and needs to get physically to the trash and eat it? Is that, and during that it solves puzzles, right?
It's the gameplay is isometric. It's free movement. So I like to make a comparison to like a MOBA, but without enemies, without NPCs. So you have WASD movement, you have your abilities, you will passively eat trash over time, and you will unlock abilities which will grant you powers to clear more of the trash in the specific type. For example, eating enough glass, you will unlock the ability to do a sonic blast, which will crash all the glass around you, and so you can just swoop it up.
Cool. Yeah, and what's the end goal? Like, you need to clear up everything, right?
Yes, you need to clear up everything. You will do it passively by eating or using abilities which will cluster and clear more trash at a time. You gain abilities to clear more trash at a time.
Oh, cool, thanks.
You had such a good questions. I want to ask about the difficulty too, so I need to come up to the second one. But if I imagine it's like a roguelike game, right? So how are you going to generate the room? Is it the same room?
It's always different map, different shapes with different concentrations of trash using collapsed wave function. So that's not really too hard for randomly generated maps, alongside with elements which would be not so good for the player. We imagined like hanging magnets which would slow down the metal builds. The more refined plastic builds would be scared of acid pools. So you would have not only to evolve out of the game, but you would have to evolve in the game. Like you can enter the cocoon and become the different type of bug. But there's too much to talk during this presentation. So yes.
Thanks.
Is that good enough? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So eating all the different trash makes the robot feel bad in various ways. Yes. So what makes it feel good?
Nothing makes him feel good.
Cool, thank you.
It's not that type of game.
Did you like these? Yes? Yeah, I have to say we're really, really super proud of you guys. I know you worked hard. You worked alongside your 9-to-5s, your university, so it's been really amazing to see how all of these final presentations took shape over time. So I'm going to ask our lovely photographer Peđa to stage us there and invite all of the presenters on the stage for a group photo. And I'm going to ask our judges to take a couple of minutes to finish up grading the teams, and then we will go back in the dark room and crunch the numbers. Okay, so I'm going to just ask you guys to please quiet down for a bit so we can have a moment of suspense before we announce the winner, but those are not actual winners, they are all winners in our hearts, seriously, because we're super impressed with what we saw. The numbers were extremely close, I think the closest year we had so far. So just a final round of applause for all of the teams. And now, the winning team of the third cycle of the Playing Narratives program, Čiče Gliše. Please, guys. Come on, come on. Congrats, guys. I guess the jury was impressed by the overall experience of the game and all the details you explained well about the gameplay. You can, of course, talk to them a bit more afterwards to get some more specific feedback. I would also like to thank all of the mentors that worked hard with our teams for a full month on some one-on-one sessions. So is there anything you would like to say, maybe?
Thank you. Really, that's all. The four of us worked on projects, just to know.
So hopefully you will carry on the dream around the game and maybe find some financing to finish the game. But of course, I'm hoping you will stay in touch with all of the other teams. We've had all sorts of success stories with the previous cycles. I would say like maybe 50% of all of the people that were in the program actually found a job in the gaming industry very quickly after the program. Actually, some people from your generation already found jobs in some gaming companies. Some teams merged and continued working on games further on. So again, thank you to our partners, mentors, everyone who were a part of this, this third cycle. And stay tuned, because next year we will probably announce the fourth cycle. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy, have some drinks, network, and really congrats.